start that process. So welcome everyone to our electric vehicle charging stations webinar. We will be talking today about LADWP's Charge Up LA Rebate Program. My name is Juana Torres. I am the Environmental Project Manager here at ONEgeneration Senior Center. We have two campuses. We have one in Reseda and one in Van Nuys. And we work with the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. We are one of their grantees. So we received a 3-year grant from LADWP to conduct community outreach in the San Fernando Valley. The goals of our grant are to give out information to folks on ways that they can reduce their carbon footprint, ways that they can reduce their carbon emissions, while at the same time, saving some money. And so that's my full-time job. I really enjoy it. I get to be out in the community and just really get the word out about the various ways that we can do right for our air, and at the same time, lower our electric bills. One of the wonderful things through this grant is the opportunity to partner with PCS Energy, which I will tell you a little bit more about shortly. But today we have Leah Gambino, who is the manager over at Chargy, which is part of PCS Energy. And she will be presenting the webinar for us, and she is our trusted partner, and her and her company have helped us here at ONEgeneration. Because of them, we have been able to install 40 electric vehicle charging stations here at our campus, which our seniors use. They're open to the community, and so we have 40 of them here in Van Nuys if you ever wanted to come by and check them out. And also they helped us install through their solar department. We have 3 solar carports. So with that, we are saving about 720,000 kilowatts of energy every year, thanks to that combination of the solar carports and the EV charging stations. And we provide meals for our seniors here. And so all of our cars that do a lot of these deliveries, they're electric. And so they just get to charge up here at our campus, which is really awesome. So we have a lot of experience in kind of maneuvering that process. And that's one of the reasons that we also feel so confident about speaking on this and presenting this to everyone. So with that, I'd like to welcome Leah. Thanks for joining us, Leah. Leah's been working with Chargy for 3 years. She's originally from Michigan, and she absolutely loves the sunny days here in Southern California. So she just told me a little bit ago. She started out in their solar department, and now she is working with the EV charging stations program, and she is their account manager. Again, Chargy is under PCS Energy, which is the parent company. They've been around for about 30 years. They, started out, the owners started out by developing and managing multifamily properties in Southern California, in Arizona, and in Nevada. And then a few years ago, they started to get a lot of interest in what they call disruptive technologies, right? So things like solar systems and EV charging stations. And they target these technologies and they help to pair them with available rebate programs. And that's how they're able to offer these free installations. So welcome, Leah, and I will hand it over to you to tell us a little bit more about the work.
Thank you, Juana, for the introduction. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start by sharing my screen with everybody. All right, can we all see this here? We good?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so I do like to start out by thanking everybody. So thank you guys for joining this webinar. As you guys know, the future is coming quick, and that future means solar systems, it means free energy, it means EV charging stations. So webinars like this that get the word out about free installations is kind of great. So thank you guys so much for coming to this and learning a little bit more about what we do here. So Juana gave a really good introduction about kind of where Chargy came from. She mentioned our parent company, PCS Energy, and that the partners of that company started in real estate. So they have a huge background in managing properties, developing properties, and then started getting into, like Juana said, disruptive technologies. So things like payphones back in the day, telecommunication services like land wires, and now EV charging stations and solar systems. So we do work with really great rebate programs in the area, LIDWP being one of the top ones that we've been working with for the longest. So this presentation here is specifically about LIDWP's rebate program. However, just keep in the back of your mind that there are programs in other areas, Southern California Edison, Nevada, Arizona, places like that, that we are very strong in working with. But like I said, today we're going to focus on one region, DWP, make it nice and simple for everybody here. All right. So Chargy itself was created about 2 years ago, and our goal was to provide a very intuitive and flexible charging network, all at no cost to property owners. Like Juana said, we are able to do this because utility companies offer these wonderful rebate programs. Chargy pairs with these rebate programs to provide you with a white glove concierge service. So we deliver the funds, we create the plans, we acquire permits, we install all the infrastructure and charging stations, and after we monitor your system to make sure that everything is in working order. All right, so I'm going to start here on our page. Like I said, this first page just briefly describes this rebate. We do offer no cost installations here. So California does have some of the most aggressive rebates available due to the total number of drivers within our state. And just to add a little bit of perspective, 50% of all EV drivers are here in California. 50% of all the drivers in California are in Los Angeles. So there's a huge need out here for infrastructure for EV charging. That's why LADWP said, you know what, we're going to offer this really great rebate program so that properties can get this at no cost, so more people can eventually drive an electric vehicle. What LADWP does is they allocate funds once about every 3 to 6 months. They open up a lottery system. Each lottery is roughly between $8 and $12 million in total. So we have about that much money to work with when it comes to rebate allocation. Chargy itself takes up just over 50% of all of this funding for every lottery. So we have a huge portion of this. We are a huge player within this realm. So we work extremely close with DWP, and DWP works very close with us as well. So as you can see here, this program is open to properties that have commercial rates on their house meter. This can mean a townhome, condo situation, multi-unit dwelling like an apartment building, and of course offices, schools, commercial properties like that. We've worked with all of these. We've worked with airports, we've worked with condos, we've worked with residential communities ourselves. Rebate programs like this do offer additional rebates for low income or disadvantaged communities. So I do like to note that down here. The incentive is $1,000 more. So these rebate programs are really targeting areas like this. Of course, there are certain requirements of the rebate that allows our team to offer no cost installation. We need to be able to choose where these stations are installed. Of course, we will work with you and your team to figure out the best solution for everybody to keep this project at no cost to you. Let me go down here. We kind of talked about all of these types of properties that can apply here. So now I'm going to go down to this slide. So basically what our team does is we do create all the infrastructure plans based off of your property's current power capabilities and parking layout. So we do take into account the layout, how close parking spaces are to your electrical infrastructure, all of which DWP does approve. Well, first they review it, then they approve it, and then they may actually deny applications based on availability in your area. So we do work with them quite frequently on permitting, making sure that the electrical infrastructure on your site, as well as the neighborhood transformer, has enough power to even feed these stations. So basically our goal, and Charge Up LA's goal, is to provide your property with enough stations to feed your need for the next 10 to 15 years. So in saying this, the infrastructure plans that we do create are going to be for the maximum amount of rebate that we can get for your property. This is great for residential communities because there is no ongoing cost to your management. Once the stations are installed, there's no monthly service fees, there's no sort of maintenance that needs to happen on these stations. It is truly free for you guys. So one other requirement that we have is that properties must have at least 2 parking spaces to qualify for a single station. After that, the rebate program offers another station for every 4 parking spaces that you have. Chargy has a hard minimum of 4 stations per property. So we will be able to evaluate and provide you with a proposal for installation if we can install a minimum of 4 stations here. Every property is capped at 40 stations through this rebate program. 40 tends to be a great amount no matter how many parking spaces you have, as this will cover your needs for the next few years. And really on average, I'll stay up here. On average, all of our projects range between about 23 to 36 charging stations, and this is only going up as time goes by. So we strongly suggest that your properties get ready for the future as well as today, and really take advantage of this money that is here for you guys. So how can we help you? As it states on this slide, really 98% of all of our projects are at no cost. So this is a huge help to our properties, not because it's free, but because you're getting a huge, massive upgrade to your property as well. So I mentioned above that we do provide a turnkey service. We do take on each and every aspect of your property, from surveying and evaluating to planning and designing, installation, permitting. We finalize the permits with the Department of Building and Safety. And then finally, we assist you on the management and operation of your ongoing service. So all of this is included in our no-cost installation agreements here. And of course, you guys know this can benefit your properties in many ways. This addition can be roughly $200,000 worth of upgrades to your property. That number is for 40 stations. So that includes the stations, the infrastructure behind it, additional cell booster signals to get connection to your garages. It's quite a expensive process, but we're here to cover that for you guys. These stations can also help attract and retain tenants and residents by providing an amenity that is searched for. So recently we found out that charging stations are the second most searched out feature for apartment buildings. So it is coming, guys. Tenants are looking for these stations. And like I said, this brings a huge value to these residents. It provides a network that will allow them to save money in the long run. They can charge right at home instead of going to a shopping center and charging there. Everything is very convenient when you have a station either at your home or your office space. So I do like to add here, even if you do not have any EV drivers at your property, this amenity is still beneficial for you. There's no ongoing cost for residential communities. So the stations can simply remain on the wall with no active users on it for 10, 15 years. We basically want you guys to get ready in case any of your residents are looking at going EV. At least then they would have an option to charge at home if they're interested. And then the next 2 slides are a few case studies of properties that we've installed that in the area. So Jameson is one of our top clients here. We've installed at multiple properties of theirs, all at no cost to them. So as you can see, they installed 40 stations, roughly $200,000 of infrastructure installed through the rebate program. And then on the other side, commercial side of things, Kaiser is another great client of ours. Again, no cost installation, beautiful outdoor install, pedestal mounted. Some stations are mounted directly on a wall. It just provides a very easily accessible station to both residents in the area and people who work within this building here. All right. So I kind of gave a very brief overview of this rebate program, but basically what we mentioned is that one, the rebate is offering a certain amount of funding for non-DAC properties, a little bit more for disadvantaged communities. They do cap the amount of stations at 40, and this is completely based off of how many parking spaces you have. And then finally, Chargy does come in. We do float the money for this installation ahead of time. We end up chasing after the rebate, keeping this completely free and out of your pockets for you guys. So that's a nice little overview of kind of what we went over today. So I would like to open this up now to any questions or concerns that you guys have about this program.
Leah, there's a question in the chat. Is there a fee for drivers to use the charging station?
That's a great question. So yes, there's really two sides of this. Every property has the ability to set the rate for electrical consumption. So it's up to you if you want to charge your drivers for that usage or not. Most properties do charge around 25 cents per kilowatt hour to their drivers. This is roughly $5 to $10 per charging session. On the other side of things for the network, of course, there is a little bit of a cost to keep the connection point up. The drivers are responsible for paying this monthly service fee, and it is $15 per driver. Okay. All right.
Great.
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I can see everybody's pictures now. All right. So Bernice, I know you had mentioned something in the beginning about living in a townhome situation. Yes, we can absolutely cover properties like this. However, if you have individual garages, then we cannot apply for the rebate program that way. We would have to install in guest parking spaces. Does that make sense?
Yes, I sort of realized I have an individual one, but we have 343 units, and we do have subterranean garages, and it might work there.
Absolutely. We love subterranean garages. There's nice clean walls that we can install at there. So absolutely we can do that. Even if you're a condo unit and say all of your residents are parked down there, we can work with that as long as we tie the electricity back to the house meter. We just cannot install back to unit meters. Does that make sense?
Well, I was going to talk to the association, manager there. I didn't quite understand what you said. If you put it on the wall there of the subterranean, where does it plug into the electricity?
We'll create the infrastructure for that. So we create an outlet and we pull the wires for that.
Yeah, because they have electrical outlets outside for use for the lighting and stuff like that, So I know they have that kind of thing here, but I think it'd be wonderful for the subterranean, and you mentioned something about guest parking.
Yes, sometimes, like for example, I live in a townhome as well. Each of our townhomes has an individual parking garage. In that case, we would not be able to install, right? Just because every unit would have its own meter, the house meter, there is no house meter. So it wouldn't work in my community, but for a community like yours, if there are guest spaces that are sort of open and not, singled off as an individual garage, we can work with that.
Great. So I will tell my manager, and then he should just call DWP to start the process, or what?
He would reach out to me or Juana. So we can get in contact with either one of us. And because Chargy takes on the rebate application, we would want to do a site evaluation first, and then we would apply on your behalf.
So where do I get the information to give them for Studio City here?
Yeah. Oh, Juana. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Bernice, after this, I will go ahead and share my contact information with everyone so that if anybody is interested in taking the next step, that we can do that. And I also have everyone's email. So Bernice, I can just go ahead and email you and we can coordinate off
That would be
offline.
great. I'd appreciate that because like I said, there's 343 units and a good 20 are subterranean. And we do have a lot of guest parking spaces. That would
Wonderful.
improve our property values quite a bit, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. We can
Can
definitely
you-
work with you.
I'm sorry, Lee, go ahead and finish.
Oh, I was just going to
So,
say, we can absolutely work with you, Bernice.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leah. And Juana, you
course.
will email me the information then.
I will.
Thank you very much.
I will.
Lee, I was going to ask, I wanted to get some clarification on what you had mentioned just a little bit ago. You mentioned unit versus house. Can you clarify a little bit? Does that mean house being the condo association versus each individual unit in the condo?
Exactly. Yes. So a stipulation of the rebate program states that the power has to come through a commercial meter. Most of the
Okay.
time in residential communities, the house meter is on a commercial rate. So this would be the meter that feeds your outside lights, your garage area, your gates, if those open and close. We just are restricted from attaching to an individual user's unit.
Makes sense. Okay. And if let's say that the commercial or that the house unit wasn't capable of supporting, let's say 20 or so units, would that still qualify within the grant program to upgrade that so that they would?
It depends on the upgrade required. So,
Okay.
and this is all in DWP's hands. They determine if an upgrade is required. They also determine the cost associated and who is responsible for paying that. So most of the time, the upgrades that I see required coming through are transformer upgrades. LADWP says, hey, our equipment isn't quite rated high enough for this, so we're going to upgrade it on our dollar. Sometimes, and very rarely, will the site equipment have to be upgraded. And in that case, DWP will say, hey, your house meter doesn't have enough power, or the panel isn't rated what it should be, and here's the cost associated. Usually this cost ranges between about $3,000 to $5,000, depending on the upgrade.
Got it. And is there like a general rule of thumb to say if a building was built, say after 2000, then it should be okay, or if it was built before 2010, it might not be?
I wish it were that easy.
Of course.
Of course,
it's not that
it's
easy.
never
Okay.
it's never quite that simple. So just to give you a little perspective, one of the first deals that I worked on 3 years ago was a property built in 1890s, and there were no upgrades required there, which blew my mind. And then I have a brand new property that I recently have been working with that required an upgrade. It was a brand new construction. So there's really no rhyme or reason. It just depends on power capacity here.
Got it. And you said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, sometimes older buildings actually have significantly more power because they used to not have LEDs. They used to not have energy efficient equipment. So when they switch over, it frees up a lot of their power capacity.
Got it. And you said the minimum is 4 hard, but you can do up to 40, and they're not required to be used, just a minimum of 2. Is that right?
So none of them have to be used. Okay. Yeah, you can have 0 users and we will still want to install with you.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Of course.
I have a question in the chat, Leah, from someone who lives in Northridge, and he is permitting an ADU on the property. It will have guest parking.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
So a residential area in Northridge. I'm sorry, ADU. I'm unfamiliar
The accessory dwelling unit. So they're going to add the.
Okay, got it. No, I believe you would qualify for this. Basically, as long as your house meter is on a commercial rate, you should be fine. And as long as you have, let's see, with DWP, it would be at least 16 parking spaces that would allow us to install 4 charging stations. But yes, you would qualify.
Okay.
Now,
And,
I just want to preface that with anything will qualify for a no cost installation once we complete a site evaluation. So we do have to come on site just to take a look at everything before we can actually propose you a no cost deal.
Yeah. So it sounds like for Rob, who's asking this question, to have 16 parking spaces for just an ADU is probably not realistic. So Rob, I'm happy to work with you offline to help you navigate what would be the rebate program for single family homes or for residential, which is a different process. And like I mentioned on the phone to him, it's not as generous, unfortunately, as the rebate program for commercial properties. So if you just own a home and have an ADU on it, the rebates are just not as great from the utility. And I don't know why that is.
It has to do with the amount of work associated with the installation. So a lot of times in larger communities with larger parking, there's more wiring that needs to be run, additional conduit, potential trenching, things like that, just add to the cost of the installation itself. Whereas a single family home, you can run right from your panel right onto the wall, which is usually just a few feet of wiring required. So there is significantly less cost with installing at a single family home than it is for other types of properties. Yeah. Hopefully the rebate offering would cover a single family home, but you may have to come out of pocket slightly for that install.
Yeah. And I see that Leon is also posing the same question. So we will do a separate webinar for residential rebates, but I just want to say, with my family, we just got an electric vehicle about a year ago almost, and we didn't have to do anything fancy. We just ran a 240, whatever it's called, extension cord out. And that's how we plug in every other night or whenever we need to. So it cost us about $1,200. We didn't have to go the fancy route. I didn't have to do the whole Tesla thing. It was that easy. So at the end of it, it cost me about $1,200 to just do it on our own. So it's another option, which I'm happy to share on the different webinar, different experiences so people can kind of get ideas for what might work for them.
Lee, again, going back to you're talking about the charging manages the entire process pre, during, and post. So any servicing issues, things like that, there would be a way for the tenants to call directly or email, app, whatever it is, charging?
Absolutely. So we have multiple ways that you guys can reach out to us. The charging stations themselves do have a customer support email and phone number listed on it. So we highly suggest that your residents reach out to us directly with any concerns. You will also, if you're an owner or manager of a property, will have access to our management platform. Through there, you'll have access to your account manager, which would be me. And then there's also a customer support line for management as well. So we have multiple people that you guys can reach out to at any time for assistance.
Great, thank you so much.
Do we have any other questions? We've got a couple of minutes left. It's almost 11:30. Okay, well, I am going to put my phone number and email here in the chat, just in case anybody wants to reach out directly to me. And that is my phone number, and I am putting my email. And yeah, so I see that Pierre, thank you so much. We will connect and see if we can set up a site evaluation for your property, Pierre. And if anybody else is interested in setting up, I guess the first step, Leah, is the site evaluation, right? We need to see the property and we need to see whether or not it makes sense. So that would be the next step.
Exactly.
Good question, Juana. Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Do shopping centers qualify too, or is it just apartment buildings? Or
yeah, shopping centers definitely apply for this. Any sort of commercial property, offices, shopping centers, things like that. For a shopping center, we're probably talking about level 3 stations here. So a little bit of a different offering than level 2 stations for residential communities. But Emmanuel, I'm more than happy to talk with you about retail.
I would have to give information to the landlord, and then they can reach out to you. But yeah, my mother-in-law, she works at a shopping center, but I can give her the information. She can pass it on.
Absolutely. So I know one of our level 3 stations is up at CSUN in Northridge, so Cal State University Northridge. We have 2 beautiful level 3 stations. So if you're in that area, take a look. We have over 80 level 2 stations there, as well as some level 3. I think you guys are fairly close to that.
Yeah, we're close.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right. Yeah,
Lee,
definitely.
last question real
email.
quick. I'm sorry. This is strictly for the city of LA or anything that's covered by LADWP, correct?
Correct. There
Got it.
are
Thank
other offerings within Southern California Edison that we work very strongly with. We're also working up in the Bay Area with a rebate program called SMUD. And then we're also working in Nevada and Arizona as well. So, but reach out and Olaf, we can talk about all the different rebate offerings. Okay. All right.
Thank you for joining the webinar.
Already have. Thank you.
Thank you so
Juan.
much. I look forward to being in touch. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.